Hello everyone and welcome back to another Movie Nights movie review. Today we are talking about Moana 2. This is obviously the sequel to Moana, the huge smash hit from Disney a few years ago. This film follows up that story in very interesting fashion, having Moana be called out to the sea for a different mission, and eventually being joined by Maui, played by The Rock as well. And while making a sequel to Moana seemed like an obvious thing to do based on the success from the first movie, this was originally conceived as a TV show for streaming that was then retooled into a theatrical release, and it is now out and people are getting excited to see it. But the question is it any good? And the answer, in my opinion, is it's okay. It's perfectly fine. It's definitely not as good as the first film, but it didn't need to be. You know, I often say comparisons The Thief of Joy. You don't have to hold it to that standard to enjoy the movie. However, there are a couple things the film does that I don't particularly enjoy, even on its own standards. I'll do some positives first. Obvious one, the animation is gorgeous. The color is vibrant and beautiful, and just like the first Moana film, it uses those vibrant colors to help be an integral part of the storytelling. There are some new characters in the film that I quite enjoyed. She's kind of with a new ragtag team when she goes out to sea, and one of the people that she brings on is like this grumpy agriculture guy. He's really funny. I enjoyed that character. There's also like an engineer type girl who's kind of just coming up with new ways and new things to build and try to improve things all the time. I thought her character, while annoying at times, was overall interesting. There's also kind of just a muscle man who's just a fanboy of Maui. I didn't particularly enjoy his character, but I'll kind of get into that with the negatives. And, of course, you have the chicken, and the pig comes along this time, which is really nice because they were very cute from the first movie. Auli'i Cravalho, who voices Moana, does a fantastic job yet again. Stand-out performance is her vocal performance, and, of course, her voice from singing is incredible, which leads me into the songs. There are two songs that I really liked in the film. The opening song, the opening number, and there's a number later in the movie. I don't know if this is the exact title, but it has something to do with getting lost. I think it's called Get Lost. Really enjoyed that song as well. I also think that there are some sequences that are genuinely exciting and fun to watch. The comedy also really works well in the movie. But I'll kind of use that to springboard into my negatives a little bit. This movie does have some serious script issues, both from a sequence of events perspective and just an overall motivation of the characters. And it also gives you payoff to things that didn't feel set up in any way, which is a bit disappointing considering the really well fleshed out arcs of the previous film. I won't get into spoiler territory, but for some of the script problems, they come across a group of people, or perhaps coconuts, who need their help for something, and the solution that they have is something that the people they came across already had the entire time, yet they never use that to their advantage to face this big problem that they're facing. I'm being vague, but when you watch the movie, it makes sense as to how it doesn't make any sense, and how that really just felt like them writing themselves into a corner and needing to find a way out. You can also feel what seems like exact pinpoint moments of where episodes were going to end when this was a series, which I found a little bit funny. I mean, it's impossible to know for sure, but keep an eye when you watch the movie. You might be able to kind of see them stand out. And it being a Disney movie, like a big sequel to a Disney movie, you know that there's really no stakes with the characters, which is kind of a downside to me. It's kind of like whenever Olaf melts in a Frozen movie. There's no need in getting sad. He's gonna fucking be fine. Like, that's just how it goes. And there's moments like that in the film where they play it up very emotionally and it's very dramatic, and while the actual animation and filmmaking is well done, there's no stake in the moment because you know everything's gonna be fine. It's a Disney movie. And I wish that time was spent building tension in a place where something could realistically have happened in the story, rather than just like this bait and switch that you know is coming. I mentioned earlier that I really loved two songs, and that is true. The rest of the songs are okay except for one. Maui's song in the film, just in my opinion, is horrible. What an awful song. It was the only song in the movie where I was like, oh my god, why is this sequence even happening? Just personally, I didn't enjoy Maui's song this time around. The movie also sets something up with Maui that kind of leads into the second act of where he's at, the mission he's on. And while it was an interesting story idea, it's not harped on nearly enough or made into as big of a moment as it could have been. It's very matter-of-fact, just kind of moved to push the plot forward. And I was like, oh, that kind of seemed irrelevant if you weren't going to dive into this more. Because the actual concept of what was going on, it's kind of you think a character is going to be a certain type of way, but really they're this type of way. but there was no really build up around that moment with the central characters involved. It just felt very like, we're going to pass through here, and it's to get from A to B, and thank you and goodbye. Like, there was no time spent to really revel in the fact that a very interesting story thing could have taken place here. And instead of living in that moment and being a part of it, which it does have a song that I really like, the Get Lost song is in that moment, which I like, but I feel like it could have been dived into more with those characters that are involved in that scene to really give us a sense of the stakes that I mentioned earlier at work here, because it kind of shows egos being put aside for a bigger solution to be part of something bigger, which is a very Disney thing, but it felt very surface level. In addition, I love that I also forgot to mention is Moana's younger sister. Very cute, very adorable, and helped be an emotional crux for the Moana character. I did like that. Oh, and the movie has a quite honestly terrible mid-credit scene that just should not have been part of the movie. I have no idea why they did it. To potentially set up Moana 3, which, hey, if this movie is successful, go for it. Why not? Just don't conceive it as a TV show first and then make it into Moana 3. Just make it Moana 3, please. But again, overall, I thought the movie was perfectly fine. A perfectly fun, enjoyable family movie over the Thanksgiving holiday. Is it nearly as great as the first film? No, but it probably was never going to be. Is it a insanely great film in its own right? Also no, but it's not a particularly awful film either. It's not a bad film either. Again, it's perfectly fine. It checks boxes. It misses some. But at the end of the day, for something that was kind of resurfaced to be a movie from a show, they did a better job than you think they're going to do. And again, it's perfectly enjoyable, especially if you have young ones. Take them to see it. They'll have a great time. But that's what I thought, guys. What did you think of Moana 2? I'd love to see your thoughts in the comments down below. Thank you guys so much for watching, and of course, we'll see you on the next review.